So this first lecture is really basically just kind of an overview and an introduction to entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial thinking, as well as entrepreneurial ventures. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. The entrepreneur is an individual who identifies and acts upon unique opportunities. These might be opportunities that relate to new technologies like AI. They might relate to a new process or a way of doing things like package delivery. They might create new products and services, open new markets, and ultimately they are the folks who create jobs for both themselves and for others. It starts with an entrepreneurial opportunity. And the entrepreneurial opportunity is some innovative product or service with market potential. It has to create value, it has to be timely, and people have to want whatever it is that the entrepreneur is offering. And this can be anything from, like I said, a product or service, or it can be taking an existing product and reworking it in such a way people are going to want it. I travel frequently, and one of the places that I traveled to is Belgium. And in Belgium, there is a great little chocolate shop. And there's hundreds of chocolate shops in Belgium, probably thousands. But this is a unique chocolate shop because the chocolatier, it's in the diplomatic sector close to EU headquarters. And the chocolatier is a guy who wanted to move to China. And so he graduated from his chocolate program, and then he moved to China. And he found out when he was in China that the Chinese did not really have a palate for chocolate or sweet. And so he was a little bit disheartened by that. But then he got to thinking, well, if they don't like sweet chocolate sweetened with sugar, maybe they would like it if I sweetened it with fruits. And so he started sweetening his chocolate with different types of fruits. This caught on. And so he was in China for about 5 years and then moved back to Belgium and opened this chocolate shop in Belgium in the diplomatic quarter where there is a large population of diplomats from Asia who have this same palate that his customers in China had. And so that is an example of somebody exercising an opportunity where they see something in the market and they create something that people are going to want. So create value, be timely, and people have to want it. The textbook that we use kind of distinguishes entrepreneurs and small business owners. And the argument is that an entrepreneur is somebody who creates something new, and a small business owner is somebody who uses an existing model, opens up a coffee shop, for example. I would tend to disagree with that kind of thinking. I think that if you're a small business owner, you're an entrepreneur. If you create something, you're an entrepreneur. Anybody who runs their own venture, whether it be large or small, we want to consider an entrepreneur. So I just wanted to highlight that because you'll hear it from time to time, and I think it's kind of a fallacy that exists in the market or in the world. And why is entrepreneurship important? Well, entrepreneurship is the single largest generator of wealth in the world. There was, back in 2000, there was a report called Doing Business that was funded by the World Bank. And what it did was it measured the characteristics of societies where the characteristics that make good societies for entrepreneurships, where there's good market conditions. And that's things like businesses have to be created very easily. And bankruptcy needs to be an easy process. So people need to be able to start and go out of business and start a new business very quickly. For example, here in San Diego County, you can start a business and be up and running in about 10 days. I go down to the business license office in Oceanside, I get my business license. I might need to get a fictitious business name if I'm not doing business in my own name. I rent it out in the paper, and I can do that for less than $125. And so here it's very easy. I have a girlfriend whose husband operates a business in France. It took him 1.5 years to get the same authorization that I received in 10 days. And so you've got to be able to start and end easily. You've got to be able to hire and fire people easily. You have to have a tax system that's relatively straightforward. And so we in the United States just happen to have all of these really great conditions, and regulations that make entrepreneurship very easy for people to do. And so just some statistics about small businesses and entrepreneurs. In the United States, we consider small business to be financed by one person or a small group. Small businesses have localized operations, which mean that they do business on a small scale. That can be, I'm serving people in one city. That might be, I'm selling one product, but the operations are small and centralized. They are small in size relative to their competitors. Government contractors, for example, you might consider a government contracting business small when it does $5 million worth of sales every year. $5 million of sales in my little Airbnb business would be crazy large. So small relative in size to their competitors, and small businesses typically have fewer than 500 employees. That's something that's kind of established by the SBA. Small businesses are referred to as SMEs in a lot of business jargon, so in academics. And so when you hear that term SMEs, that's talking about small to medium-sized enterprises. So in the United States, some statistics that you might not be aware of. Small businesses in the USA represent 99% of all employers. Most of the employers in the United States are mom and pops. They're not Apple, they're not Google, they're not Microsoft. Small businesses generate 62% of new private sector jobs, so small businesses are really the job generators. They pay over 40% of all private payrolls, and they represent 97% of companies exporting goods and 33% of the U.S. exporting value. So small businesses really are the engine of the U.S. economy. They're kind of the engine of the global economy too, but we'll get to that. In terms of the global perspective, really in the United States, there isn't any other country that comes close to us in the way that we create new business ventures. We just have an economic climate that is right for starting new businesses. And two key factors of that are education. Entrepreneurship classes are very easy, and it's very easy to learn to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to talk over the course of the class about resources and programs that are available to entrepreneurs free of charge, which is really fantastic. So classes are easy to get. Funding is easy to get relatively. We'll talk about that later. U.S. we've always led in venture capital in funding businesses, although other countries are kind of catching up to us now. But the resources available to you as a potential entrepreneur are really exhaustive in the US, and that is a really wonderful thing. And like I said, I'm going to talk about some of those resources as we move through the course. Entrepreneurial ventures do involve risk. I'm going to talk about failure in one of the next couple of lectures, but you have to be willing as an entrepreneur to risk failure, because many ventures do fail, and they fail for a variety of reasons. Ventures can be for-profit, they can be not-for-profit, driven by any opportunity where you see a gap in the market. And I would encourage you, if you're interested in the nonprofit sector, to start a nonprofit venture. We've had students come through our program who have started nonprofits locally in Oceanside. The name is escaping me right now. It's going to come to me in a minute. Anyways, we have student graduates of our program who are out running nonprofit ventures locally. So it is something, if you're interested in that sector, this course will only help with that. The entrepreneurial lifestyle is something, people a lot of times are drawn to being entrepreneurs for the lifestyle. You don't have to punch a time clock. You can set your own hours. You can balance your income with your passion. And really, these days, having multiple revenue streams is a really good thing. I think I have 4 right now. which I'll kind of talk about through the course of the term. Where in one of them, I have a small Airbnb business that I run with my husband that enables us to use one of our rental units for, to generate some income, but then I can also use it right now to film my videos. I can use it as an office, and I can use it as a space for friends and family. So for me, it's what we would call, there we go, it's what we would call a lifestyle venture. That my goal with this little business and this particular income stream is to help to facilitate the lifestyle that I want instead of changing my bank account as much as I want it to, because I could, but then I lose the freedom of being able to use it when I want to use it. And many businesses start with folks who have a day job and they work the business and their day job at the same time. And that's actually what I would recommend to any entrepreneur. You kind of have to know if your concept will be accepted by the market, and to give up a job to do that is really risky. So I would always recommend to build your business and build your company while you're still working a full-time job until you get to the point to where you can quit your job and to focus on the business. So entrepreneurs are also problem solvers. Entrepreneurs are folks who reframe problems as opportunities. I'm going to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset in a minute, but you really, as an entrepreneur, kind of have to have a growth-based mindset. What can I do with this skill? What can I do with this concept? Where is there an opportunity for me to create a product, a service, or a solution to something that's out there in the marketplace? To a problem that's out there in the marketplace. And so what drives folks to be entrepreneurs? Well, right now there's definitely a job instability is a driver. Job instability has kind of always been a driver, but I think now more than ever, people want to create additional revenue streams in order to help make sure that next month's rent is going to be paid if the job is lost. And so, economic uncertainty is certainly a driver of entrepreneurship. A desire for independence, to want to be able to do your own thing. I don't like being told what to do by people. And so I tend to craft ways so that I can be self-determined in the way that I work. People seeking purpose. A lot of times you're looking for something a little bit larger than yourself, or you want to do something bigger than yourself. Those tend to be maybe like the social entrepreneurs, the nonprofit folks. Cultural shifts. Currently, and for the last couple of years, we have definitely been experiencing a culture shift where young folks definitely are more interested in entrepreneurship, more so than their parents were. And so in high schools now and in elementary schools now, you're hearing and seeing a lot of information about entrepreneurship because kids and young folks want to have that self-directed and self-determination in what it is that they do. So you have a great idea and you want to start a business. Where do you start? Where do you get the startup funding? And by the way, we refer to this as capital, which I'm going to talk about in a few lectures. But where does your capital come from? For lots of entrepreneurs, their capital comes from their personal saving or their family and friends. What I always try to encourage you to do is to figure out how you can start on a shoestring so that you aren't exhausting your savings and you can scale up. So maybe you start with, $100, $200, $1,000, $5,000, and then figure out how you can grow that and reinvest it in the business and keep going and grow your business. Scale is what we call that. Scale from there. But there are also grants, contests, lots of opportunities to win business funding. There's business plan competitions. Rice University has a very large one. San Diego State has a business pitch competition where you win a minimum of $200,000. There's lots and lots of competitions out there that you can help you to win startup funding. There's also something called angel investors. Angel investors are folks who will give startup funding in exchange for a piece of the business. We would refer to that as equity. So they want a little bit of ownership share in exchange for giving you startup capital for your business. And then venture capitalists are folks that are like angel investors. You tend to go to a venture capitalist after you've been through an angel investor. You tend to have, you've got a product or you've got something. They're the folks that you go to when you really want to get big. And so they also will invest in your business in exchange for a piece of ownership. In terms of the cultural impact on entrepreneurship, certainly cultural norms and bureaucracy influence opportunity. Like I said, I've just talked about how we've had this shift in education that tends to focus more on entrepreneurship. And again, in the US, we really do have a culture that focuses on innovation and creating and sustaining our free market economy. And so what that means is that there's supportive conditions, like people have the freedom to create things. We accept failure. You can't learn anything until you actually fail at it. And so we have an acceptance of failure to be able to go in and out of businesses, to try out ideas when that idea fails, to try something else. And we also have a culture of collaboration where people will work together to create entrepreneurship teams that highlight unique strengths of each individual. So moving on, I'm just going to talk a little bit. I talked about nonprofit a few minutes ago, but we also have what are referred to, and this is kind of also a unique thing about our society, is this concept of social entrepreneurship, where you can run a business that also gives back in some way to society. And so that might, and it may be in a very small way. Like Bombas Socks, for example, it's a sock company, and for when they sell a pair, they give a pair away. They donate a pair, and so that would be a social business model, or a socially based business model. Very small social based business model, but it's socially based nonetheless. And then you might have a larger scale organization like a community bank, where the bank is designed to invest money from the community in local small or nonprofit ventures. So there's lots of avenues to be an entrepreneur and give back at the same time. And entrepreneurship is really more than the act of starting a venture. It's also a way of thinking. The entrepreneurial mindset is about having a mindset where you're always looking to be creative and innovate and do something that creates value. And so you can be an entrepreneurial thinker. I consider myself to be an entrepreneurial thinker in the way that I teach my courses. I create my content, I deliver my content, I create my assignments. I don't pull anything from textbooks, well, except the book that you're using. But I don't pull my assignments from textbooks, because I know the skills and competencies that I want you to have when you exit my course. And so I create assignments around that, and that is entrepreneurial thinking. It's also entrepreneurial thinking when somebody takes my class and then goes out and starts their own coffee business. There has to be something unique about that coffee business, because in Oceanside we have 1 million of them, but that is also entrepreneurial thinking. So entrepreneurs generally have to have passion for what it is that they're doing. If you don't have the passion, you're going to lose interest. You have to be willing to take the risk, and so you have to be able to make bold decisions, and you can't give up easily, because there will be times when you fail, and you will be told no. One of the things that I see with student entrepreneurs frequently is you haven't learned yet how to take rejection. And so when somebody passes by all of this beautiful jewelry that you've made, You might want to take it personally that they don't like it. Well, it's not that they don't like it, it's just that it's not to their taste. And so you, as an entrepreneur, you have to understand that what you have to provide isn't going to be for everybody, and be okay with that. So just some concluding thoughts, really. Anybody can be an entrepreneur. There's no restrictions, age, background, income level, national origin, gender. If you have the idea, you can do it. It just takes that idea and a plan to execute it. You don't need millions of dollars. You don't even need thousands of dollars. If you're passionate and you're tenacious, you can start humbly and nimbly and scale from there. And as you move with me through this course, I'm going to teach you how.